Hey there on TikTok and hello on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Let me know what questions you have about getting asylum in the United States. I'm Brian Manning and I'm an asylum lawyer. I used to work for the government as an asylum officer, but now my law firm, we help people all over the country to secure their future in the United States through asylum. TikTok, how are you? Let me know where you're watching from. I want to see where you are. Tell me, say hello, tell me where you're at. YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, how's it going? Say hello in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. Go ahead and start leaving your questions. I have a couple of words I want to share with you, but you can go ahead and start saying hello. Tell me where you're from and let me know what questions you got. We got Pakistan, okay. Is that where you're from or where you're watching now? We've got Shiraz, membership card for LGBTQ, as that will help me with my asylum case. We'll get to that in a minute. Thanks for asking the question. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm going to get to all your questions. Go ahead and start leaving them. Get in line. And I'm going to get to them. But first, I'm going to say a few words. I just got out of an asylum interview and it was really good. What do I mean by that? Well, the asylum officer was especially good. They were very professional. They were sensitive to my client. This was a tough case. My client had been through some really, really difficult things, very tough history, very legitimate, real case. I am 100% convinced, and I think the officer was too. Now, some of these officers, these asylum officers, they'll just plow through question after question after question, sort of unthinkingly and sometimes in an aggressive, hostile way. But this officer was different. She was thoughtful, and she used her phrasing and tone of voice in a way to try to be thoughtful and respectful and sensitive to my client, while also, doing the job that she had to do to get the information that she needs to get to make the decision in the asylum case. But this got me thinking about how different this asylum officer was from the Newark Asylum Office in Newark, New Jersey. And this got me thinking about, why some officers are like that, but many more are not. Many more are kind of the opposite. Many more are rude and hostile. And the truth is that many of them are just looking for excuses to deny people. So I wanted to say a couple of words about, where do these asylum officers come from? You may be wondering, if you're an asylum seeker in the United States, who is this person that has been invested, so much power has been invested in to make this decision of enormous consequence for my life as an asylum seeker, right? Like, who are these people? Where are they from? What's motivating them? Well, here's the thing. Honestly, the requirements to be an asylum officer are not that high. It's not like that hard of a job to get. It used to be a little bit harder, but then recently, a couple of years ago, I think it was, the USCIS changed its policies about what's required, what kind of background and educational attainment is required to qualify for an asylum officer job. They made it easier to get. And I think that has led to an increase in officers who are not quite ready to do this job yet, not so good at it. And you don't have to have a law degree. A lot of them do, or some of them do, but it's definitely not required. Most of them do not have a law degree. So there are people who are trying to interpret very complex laws, dealing with people who are often traumatized and have these complex, difficult stories they're trying to tell. And a lot of these asylum officers are not very well equipped to do that. Now, one thing that USCIS does well is training. I talk bad about USCIS a lot because I think there's a lot of things that bear criticizing, but there are some things that it does well. Training is one of those things. Asylum officers do receive good training. When I was an asylum officer with the government, I was very appreciative of the training they did. It was like basically cramming a master's level course, into 6 weeks of all day, everyday education at an off-site facility where you're kind of alone, almost like you're on a college campus, just learning refugee and asylum law all day, every day for 6 weeks. And they did a good job with that, and I appreciate it. But still, there's a lot of asylum officers who I think just aren't very equipped to take that training and really put it into practice in a productive, healthy, effective, and good way. So these officers, just to tell you a little bit more about them, they don't have to have a law degree. They don't really have to have any specific experience, except, I don't know, like they don't have to have a college degree, which is not to say that you need to have a college degree necessarily to do this job well. But I mean, as a threshold matter, it's something that, most jobs in the United States where you're dealing with sophisticated subject matter and doing a very complicated job. A lot of jobs like that do require a college degree, but this one doesn't. So I'll tell you the truth. I think that a lot of asylum officers get into this job because they see it as a way that they can exercise power over people's lives and that they can keep immigrants out of the country or kick immigrants out of the country. There's a lot of asylum officers who are straight up anti-immigrant and they're just looking for excuses to deny people, unfortunately. Okay. And this is a good way to exercise that power, right? It's a good way for you to feel powerful and to feel strong and to really just have control over someone's life and to make an impact in what I think is a negative way. If you're setting out to try to deny people and you're not doing this objectively, then I think that's a bad thing. So, but I think that's a lot of asylum officers, unfortunately. So go ahead and, by the way, leave your questions in the comments. I'm going to start getting to the questions in just a second. TikTok, how are you? YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer. I used to be an asylum officer, but now as a lawyer, my law firm, we help people all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Okay. Go to this URL. TikTok, sorry, it's not showing up on your screen. Everyone else, it's on your screen. Winasylum.com. Winasylum.com. That's WINASYLUM.com. Again, WINASYLUM.com. That's where you can schedule a consultation with one of our asylum professionals. And it looks like this on your phone. When you get there, it's super easy. It's quick. You can get one of these scheduled in just like, a minute or so. Find a spot that works for you and get set up to talk with one of our asylum professionals. Okay. So to finish this thought though, before we get to the questions and answers on the asylum officers at the asylum office, I think that a few of them, some of them are really, really well-meaning and they're trying to be objective and they're trying to do a good job to be fair and just in making these difficult decisions. But I think that most of them are not like that. And a lot of them, I think, as I said earlier, some of them start out with the intention of, I want to do this job because I get to deny people asylum and stick it to immigrants. But I think there's also a lot who get into it with a more neutral approach or more neutral mindset, but they do get kind of worn down on the job because this job is difficult. Being an asylum officer is really hard. It's very stressful. The workload is intense. The expectations for what you're supposed to be getting done in terms of the volume of work is significant. So it's hard. And also it's traumatic. You're hearing about trauma and stories of, violence and just terrible things happening to people. You're hearing about this all day long. So it can really affect you. And I think a lot of officers, a lot of people will sort of just kind of go numb and just sort of turn off their feelings as a way to cope with that. And I think that makes it less likely that you're going to really understand the perspectives of some of these applicants, and that you're going to be less likely to take some of these cases as seriously as I think you should as an asylum officer. So that's what I think about asylum officers in the United States. But okay, we're going to go to the questions, but real quick, if you want to talk about your asylum case, call my office today. Okay. The number is 713-909-0401. Again, it's 713 TikTok 909-0401 on TikTok. You can go over to my profile and you'll see that phone number there. Okay. Everyone else, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, it's on your screens right now. All right. Let's see what's going on out there. What questions do you have for us? All right. So Shiraz says, "Sir, I'm Shiraz. I have a membership card for the LGBTQ. Will that help me win my case?" Shiraz, I've never heard of that. So here's the question. The question is, will having proof that you're a member of the LGBTQ plus community, will that help you to win your asylum case in the United States? And the more evidence that you have, the better your chances for success. Now, I know this sounds kind of weird that the asylum officer needs to be convinced that you're gay. That's kind of messed up, right? Like it shouldn't be like that, but it is. It's true that some people lie about this, okay? Some people will act like they're gay or they have some other protected characteristic just so they can try to win their asylum case. So the asylum officer is going to further, to fully explore this issue, and they want to be convinced that yes, you are in fact, gay or a member of the LGBTQ plus community. So anything you have that tends to prove that is helpful. The question, or you mentioned a card. I've never heard of a card that says you're a member of that, but maybe it's like some special NGO or group that you're part of that that you have a card for, then yeah, that sounds like it could probably help. But other things can help as well. Pictures of you with someone of the same sex in what looks to be kind of like you're on a date or doing something semi-romantic. Don't send like nude photos, okay? People do that sometimes. People send in like nude photos of them showing naked bodies. You don't need to do that, okay? But text messages or SMS or instant messages between you and a partner of the same sex that are flirtatious in nature or show that you're doing things together in a way that a couple that is dating or partners would do. Those kinds of things, are helpful. Pictures of you at events like a pride parade or at something that clearly looks like a gay bar. So again, it's messed up that you have to like prove that you're gay. It shouldn't be like that, but it is. And so this is a game that you have to play. You have to play along if you want to win asylum, even though that may feel a little bit degrading and lacking in dignity. Unfortunately, this is one of those things where you got to kind of just do it. All right. Thanks for the question. Let's go to TikTok. All right. Okay. What was that? Okay. Can you? Nice. Can my mom come visit me as a green card holder in the U.S.? So the question is, can your parent come visit you as a green card holder when you're in the U.S.? I assume in the question, you mean you've got a green card, so can your parent come visit you? Well, yeah. I mean, of course, there's no special visa that they can get that's like, oh, the visa that is for the parent or family of a U.S. green card holder. No, there's no visa like that. They'd just be applying for like a normal tourist visa. Will the fact that you've got a green card make it any more or less likely that they'll actually be able to get the visa to come visit you? No, not. It doesn't really help either way. It doesn't make it more likely or less likely that they'll be granted the tourist visa to come and see you. Now, if in your question you actually meant that your parent has the green card, then they don't need a visa. They can just visit on the green card. Even if you are an asylum seeker, if they've got a green card but right now they're not living in the U.S., but you're asking whether they can come visit you, sure, with their green card, they can come visit, no problem. Thanks for the question. All right, let's see. Let's go see what we've got on. Let's go over to YouTube. By the way, for those of you on TikTok, my YouTube channel is where it's at. TikTok is great, but YouTube is where you're going to find all of my best stuff, okay? I've got like full-length, long tutorials over on YouTube where I am really explaining things in depth, okay? Like very detailed trainings about all kinds of different things, from how to fill out the application form to how to think about answering questions during your asylum interview or your immigration court hearing. There's lots of stuff like that. So go over to YouTube and search for Political Asylum Lawyers. On YouTube, search for Political Asylum Lawyers, and you're going to find all my best stuff there. Okay? All right, let's go now. Hello, says PJ. Hey, PJ. Watching from YouTube, says Ricketts Brianna. Hey, Brianna. Hello from the USA. Canada. Interesting. Okay. Hi, I'm in New York, says Brianna. Good evening, everyone, says Eddie. Good evening. Okay. Hello, sir. My asylum case got granted. PJ says, my asylum case got granted in San Francisco. Can I move to Indiana and apply for a green card there? Thanks for asking. So the question is, after you get granted asylum, whether that's in the immigration court or an asylum office, can you move to another state and still be able to get your green card based on your asylee status? Or do you have to stay in the same area or maybe the same state where you actually won your asylum case? Good news. The answer is that you can move to anywhere in the United States and it will not affect your green card application. So remember, after you win asylum, you're eligible to get your green card, which is a signifier that you have lawful permanent residence. You're eligible to get that 1 year after you win asylum. And it doesn't matter if you move to a new city or a new state or clear across the country to a totally different jurisdiction or region than where you won your underlying asylum case. Doesn't matter. You're still eligible to get that green card no matter where you live or move to in the United States after having won asylum. So that's good for you, right? All right, let's go to TikTok. So let's see. Taro says, Young Money, 6 to 24 months, depending on your case. What was, Young Money asked, what's the processing time for the asylum green card after applying? I don't Yeah, it's going to be there's a more specific timeline than 6 to 24 months, Taro, whoever that is, which I haven't looked up in the last few weeks, but you can easily search USCIS processing times, and then find the proper category. There's a drop down, and one of the questions is like, or one of the options is, I-485. That's the green card application form, right? Once you select that, it asks you what your green card that you're applying for is based on, and one of them is like asylum granted more than 1 year ago. So, on Call Me Katrina on TikTok says, what about LGBTQ asylum seekers? So yeah, let's talk about that. The question is, can you get asylum based on the fact that you're a member of the LGBTQ plus community? And yeah, you can. So remember, for asylum, it's not enough just to show that you've been persecuted in the past or that you're at risk of being persecuted in the future. Rather, also you got to show that this persecution is based on or motivated, at least in significant part, by the fact that you, asylum seeker, possess one of the 5 protected grounds under U.S. asylum law. Those are your race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or something called membership in a particular social group. Now, you may be thinking, okay, so where does a gay person fit into that? Does it fit into one of those 5 boxes? And the answer is yes, it does fit into one of them. It fits into that 5th one called membership in a particular social group. You see, the courts have said that, yeah, being what they call a sexual minority, anything other than like a straight person, is something that counts as membership in a particular social group. So you can get asylum as a member of the LGBTQ plus community. Just being a member isn't enough. You've also got to show that you have a well-founded fear of being persecuted in the future. There's certain circumstances in which you can win asylum based just on stuff that's happened in the past, but usually you also have to show that that fear still exists. It's still reasonable to fear being persecuted because of the fact that you're gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered, whatever the case may be that fits into this LGBTQ plus community category, which is under the membership in a particular social group characteristic of protected grounds under U.S. asylum law. So yeah, definitely. Why are they placing almost every immigrant from Haiti to immigration proceedings, and sometimes they have no hearing date? I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana. Well, first of all, we've helped a lot of people from Haiti. We had success recently with a client who was not in deportation proceedings, but rather had his case pending for several years with USCIS from Haiti. And we sued the government to force his asylum interview. And it worked. We got the interview scheduled after he'd been waiting for years. And then we represented him during his interview, and he won asylum. Okay. But let me go back to your question. So the question is, why do people from Haiti seem to all be getting put into deportation proceedings? And sometimes why are they not having hearing dates? Well, let's back up a little bit, and I'll say that I don't think it's the case that Haitians necessarily are being placed into deportation proceedings at higher percentage or greater rates than people from other countries. How it works is, if you come to the United States without a visa, you almost certainly will get put into deportation proceedings. So a lot of the Haitians that we've seen lately have been coming to the southern border without a visa, and therefore they get put into deportation proceedings. Now, you may be thinking about, okay, but I've heard of like a lot of Venezuelans and Cubans and Nicaraguans who are not getting put into deportation proceedings. Well, that's because there's a special program by which some people are able to come to the United States and get paroled in, and they don't get put in immigration court proceedings. But that's kind of like a long drawn out process where you have to be from a certain country, and you have to get this parole permission approved ahead of time, and then you don't get put in immigration court proceedings. That may be what you're thinking about. But in terms of why they don't have a hearing date, again, I don't think that's specific to Haiti. I think that that's just a lot of people don't. Why don't a lot of people have hearing dates? They just haven't gotten around to it. They're overwhelmed with processing and inputting data for new cases and setting them up, and they just don't get around to actually scheduling a hearing date for people sometimes. There's various reasons why, but it doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't mean that your case is good or bad, you're going to win or you're going to lose or anything like that. It's kind of random. So don't take any meaning from it, okay? In terms of your specific case, all right? All right. Wahid says, hello, sir. Hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well, Wahid. Thanks for the question. I've done my biometrics for asylum with USCIS in San Francisco. So how long will it take to schedule my interview? My clock started now for EAD. My current status is parolee. All right. Thanks for the question. So the question is, after you do your biometrics appointment as part of your asylum case, how long can you expect to have to wait until you actually get your asylum interview? And the answer is, I don't know. And there's no way to tell based on the mere fact that you've had your biometrics appointment, which is to say, you cannot draw any conclusions from the fact that you've gotten your biometrics appointment. That does not mean that, oh, you're necessarily or even probably going to have your interview soon or at some sort of medium range date or far into the future. The mere fact that you got your biometrics tells us nothing about when you're going to go on to have your actual asylum interview, unfortunately. Okay. So it could still be very soon. It could still be within weeks, or it could be months or even years. USCIS has a policy by which they actually are trying to schedule people as quickly as possible for interviews. However, in the last, year and a half or 2 years, it hasn't been going fast because USCIS has to prioritize. They have rules that say they have to prioritize certain types of interviews, namely credible fear interviews, where asylum officers are doing mostly telephonic interviews with people who come to the southern border. They've got to prioritize their manpower on those cases instead of normal affirmative asylum case interviews. So when there's a huge surge in people to the southern border, as there has been in the United States, then it backs up the affirmative asylum interviews. It just sort of slows it all down because they got to focus on credible fear. So there's different factors that go into this equation of like how they schedule interviews, but that's the main one. And you never really know. Someone could apply for asylum today and have their interview a month and a half from now. Or they could apply tomorrow and have their interview 4 years from now. By the way, if you've been waiting for your asylum interview for at least 3 years, you're in a pretty good position to force your asylum interview by way of a mandamus lawsuit. This is where you sue the federal government and you're asking a federal judge to tell USCIS that they have to do their job. Because you see, USCIS is obligated to act in a reasonable time on any immigration application. And when they don't do that, you can sue the government to make them do it, okay? To have a judge tell them they have to do it. And when a judge tells them they have to do it, they actually do it, okay? We've been using this tool a lot lately. It's called a mandamus lawsuit. It is extremely effective. If you've been waiting 3 years or more, you should call my office today to talk about it. In fact, don't call. Go to winasylum.com. Okay. The URL is winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. That's where you can schedule an asylum strategy session with one of our asylum professionals so that we can analyze your situation and tell you whether we think we can help you in your asylum case, including we can talk about this issue of whether there's a real chance in your case to force your interview and decision by way of one of these lawsuits called a mandamus lawsuit. Okay. So call us or go to winasylum.com. That's the easiest, quickest way. All right. Where is your law office? Shelly on YouTube says, where is your law office located? Please, I need assistance. Thanks for the question, Shelly. I appreciate you taking the time to comment and ask the question. So the question is, where's my law office located? Well, so we're based out of Houston, Texas, but you see, we help people all over the country. All right. We have clients in Texas, of course, a lot of clients in Texas, but we've also got lots of clients in California, Florida, New York, and then other big cities across the United States, including a lot in Chicago. Okay. So how it works is we're able to support people anywhere in the country. Okay. So we have lots of clients that are in immigration court proceedings in various cities across the nation and also in asylum offices across the country. And we actually develop everything in terms of the casework and developing the case virtually up until the day of the asylum interview or the immigration court hearing. We even do that for people that are in Texas. We do not do in-person meetings even with our clients in Houston, where our office is located. We don't even do it in person for them. We do everything virtually by video conference and telephone and moving documents through shared storage online, uploading them. But then when it's time for the big day, right, where it's time to explain your case, Sometimes those hearings or interviews are done by video conference, but if they're in person, then we're there for all immigration court hearings that are held in person. We're there with our clients in person. For asylum interviews, there's some nuance there, but we help people all over the country. Okay, so yeah, go to winasylum.com, or you can just call this number 713-909-0401. Again, that's 713-909-0401, and you can quickly, easily set up this asylum strategy session with one of our asylum professionals so that we can just, analyze your case and tell you whether we think we can help you. Okay, let's see what else we got. Let's go to TikTok. Got my asylum. Got my asylum 4 months ago. Can I get a travel document before my green card is approved? Good question. Thank you for asking it. So the question is, after you win asylum, but before you get your green card, is there some kind of document that you can get that will allow you to travel in the United States or even internationally? And the answer is yes. Thankfully, for people who have asylum status, there's this thing called a refugee travel document. Now, it looks basically like a passport, and it functions effectively as a passport. So once you become an asylee, you can get this document, this what's basically looks like a passport, and you use it in place of a passport. You should not use your home country's, your old passport. If it's still valid, you should not use it to travel internationally, but you can use this refugee travel document, and other countries will treat it like a passport. And you can come and go freely. It's not like when you were in asylum pending, where you needed to get advanced parole, and that was very complicated. You can travel freely once you're an asylee and you get this refugee travel document. You still need visas. Like the other countries that you might want to visit, their visa requirements still apply to you based on your actual country of citizenship. It's just that the document that they go in is the refugee travel document, which functions effectively as a passport. So that's how that works. All right. How much does an asylum contract cost in your office? Like, how much do we charge? Thanks, Frank, for asking. So it varies depending on the case, but basically you can count on somewhere between $9,000 and $14,000 if you want to hire us to be your asylum lawyers. Depends on various factors, right? Whether it's a case at the asylum office or an immigration court. Depends on where it is. Depends on what stage you are, meaning whether you've already applied for asylum or whether we're going to be starting out from that spot and helping you with that. So there's various factors that go into it. But yeah, that's the range. It's like $9,000 to $14,000. We offer payment plans. And we also collaborate with a company that gives immigration loans. That may be an option for someone if you're not in a position to make like kind of a big upfront payment. Some people choose to get a loan to finance their immigration case. All right. Good question. Sarah A says, why are the numbers are so low in New York City, even if it's a sanctuary state? So thanks for the question. The question is, why is the approval rate so low at the New York asylum office if it's a so-called sanctuary state or a state that's generally viewed as being friendly to immigrants and pro-immigrant? So good question. I think it comes down to culture. I think it just so happens that the New York asylum office has a director who's been there a long time, who is anti-immigrant and who has just sort of forced down from the top going down this anti-immigrant culture. Okay. There's really no other way to explain it because, right next door, the asylum office in Newark, New Jersey has a very high approval rate. Yet the asylum office in New York is very, very low. It's one of the lowest in the country. So I don't know of any other way to explain it. Like they have similar populations of asylum seekers, meaning like the countries from which people come. Because that can affect things, right? Like in like Los Angeles, in the South, especially like in Houston and Miami, you get a lot of people from Latin America. And especially in years past, you would get a lot of people in those places and in Los Angeles from Central America. And a lot of them didn't qualify because there was no nexus to a protected ground. It's true that some very bad things had happened to a lot of them and that a lot of them were still at risk going forward. But it was gang violence that didn't really have a connection to one of the 5 protected grounds. So those approval rates are going to be a little bit lower. As where in New York, it's kind of a bigger, broader cross-section of people just from all over the world, right? And it's basically the same population in New York asylum office as it is at the Newark asylum office. Those words are very similar, so it's like kind of confusing. So you shouldn't have a very different numbers of approval rates, but they're massively different between New York and Newark. I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, Sarah. Why the approval rate is so low. What's crazy is that in New York, the asylum office has a very low approval rate, but the immigration courts have a very high approval rate. So lots of cases that get a negative decision from the New York asylum office, they get sent over to immigration court, and a lot of them get approved. So if you're in New York and you get a referral, a negative decision from the New York asylum office, take heart. All is not lost. You've still got a chance to win your case in the immigration court, because again, the approval rates in the immigration court are quite high all the time. Very, very frequently, the judges say, that's crazy that the asylum office didn't give you asylum. You clearly deserve asylum, and the immigration judge grants your asylum case. All right. Let's see what else we've got. Michael Udekwe says, sir, is text message allowed as evidence in an asylum claim? Thank you for asking that question. The question is, can you use text messages or other kinds of messages like direct messages or any kind of message you've received as evidence in your asylum case? And the answer is yes, absolutely. This can often be very good evidence, because that's how people communicate, right? Through WhatsApp chats or Facebook Messenger or SMS or text message. So people often get threats by those means, or it can be other things beyond threats. It can be just anything that really backs up what you're saying in your asylum case, right? And so, yeah, you can definitely use those things as evidence. You just got to print it out. You got to find a way to print it out in a way that is formatted well, that looks good and makes sense. But note that also the asylum officer may ask you to see the actual messages on your phone. They may say, okay, this WhatsApp conversation that you provided a printout of, do you still have that on your phone? And if you do, you should be ready to show them. Sometimes they'll ask you to see this at the asylum office, okay? So be aware, okay? Be aware of that. And if you don't have it, then of course you can't show it, but you need to think back, try to think ahead of time about, okay, wait, did I delete that? If so, when and why, okay? And be ready to tell the officer those things. Thanks for the question. All right, Shelly says, how come it's so difficult to get asylum? Hello again, Shelly. Asylum from Africa. Attorneys don't really want to take the case when they hear asylum. Thanks for the question. The question is, why is it so hard for people from Africa to get asylum? And why are there so many attorneys who don't even want to take these asylum cases? First of all, regarding the issue of why it's hard to get asylum, I think it's probably true that approval rates are lower for people from Africa than from most other continents. It's probably, there's a bias, okay, against people from Africa and the Middle East especially. When an asylum officer or judge picks up the file and they see a country in Africa, very often they go, oh, this is probably fraud. They're probably lying. And they're going to be looking for ways. A lot of them are going to be looking for ways to trip you up and to find little inconsistencies to have an excuse to deny you. Why? I think two things. I think that a lot of it is ignorance. There's some fraudulent cases that come out of countries in Africa. And so there's this ignorance that just sort of says, oh, well, then I guess everyone is probably... Most people must be lying there. It seems like I've seen a lot of lies coming out of there. So they attribute that to everyone, but also they just don't know anything about, they don't know much about the continent or about the countries within Africa. And this ignorance makes them just kind of not want to engage with it, not want to deal with it. It's easier just to deny it than to really wrestle with these tough issues. And then the other thing is racism. I think there's a lot of racism. I can say more so I can say with more confidence, I feel like there's a lot of racism at the asylum office, because I used to be an asylum officer with USCIS, and I know the asylum office as well. I do think there's a lot of racism there, okay? So, but with your question about attorneys, are you talking to asylum lawyers, Shelley, or are you just calling up random immigration lawyers? Talk to an asylum lawyer. I'm an asylum lawyer. I don't call myself an immigration lawyer. I call myself an asylum lawyer. That's what I do every day, all day. My law firm does not take on family-based green card cases. We don't take on business or employment-based status cases. We do asylum. Asylum is complicated. It's a complicated sort of niche and subset of U.S. immigration law. And if you want to be great at it, you got to be studying it all the time, okay? You can't be distracted by all these other kinds of areas within U.S. immigration law, all right? I strongly encourage you to find the professional who focuses on the exact problem that you need solved, okay? And that means I think you should talk to an asylum lawyer. Don't talk to a lawyer who says, oh, I do all kinds of immigration cases. Any immigration case, come to me. I got that. No, their attention is too divided. I think they're not going to be able to stay up and stay current on the developments, the rapidly changing landscape of U.S. asylum law. And they're not in it every day focused on it. I just think they're not probably going to be as good. So my advice to you, Shelly, is talk to asylum lawyers, okay? Give us a call, all right? Go to this website. Go to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. That's where you can schedule an asylum strategy session so that we can analyze your situation and tell you whether we think we can help you, okay? That's what I think you should do. Get in touch with us, all right? Reach out, okay? With that, got to wrap it up for today, but thank you, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. I appreciate you being here and spending time with us, and it's always a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity, and give us a call if you want to talk about your case. We'd love to hear from you and see whether we think we can help you secure your future in America through asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and I'm an asylum lawyer with offices based in Houston, but we help people all over the country. So it doesn't matter where you live. Call us if you want to talk about your situation so we can see if we can help you. All right? Thank you. And as always, it truly is a pleasure and it's an honor to support you in your asylum journey. Thanks. Bye, guys. I'm heading.